In customer service, misunderstandings can happen easily and for many different reasons, and often cause unnecessary frustration for customers, which can then lead to more misunderstandings and more frustrations, which is not good. It's even more difficult when English isn't your first language. In this video, we're going to focus on key English phrases that can help you clarify issues, correct misunderstandings, and avoid further confusion when dealing with customers. By the end of this video, you're going to have the language tools that you need to manage misunderstandings clearly and effectively. So I hope you're ready. Let's get into it. When we're dealing with customers and there's a misunderstanding,
Whole thing, misunderstanding.
we may want to try to get clarification. So let's start with some of the language that we may need, that we may use to get clarification, to resolve a misunderstanding. You might say, I want to make sure I understand. You're saying that when you say this, you're stating your goal first. In other words, why am I saying you're saying that, right? Well, because I have the goal of wanting to make sure I understand. So you start with that. Now, that could be seen as a little bit formal. A slightly less formal, more conversational way to say that might be just to make sure I understand, you're saying. Now, we're going to be looking at, in a moment, some ways to restate what the customer has said, and that's very similar. But this is just to make sure that we've understood what the customer said. So just to make sure I understand, and then you say your understanding, right? What you understood, basically. In your words, you explain it. So you could say, you're saying that. You could say, I think the issue is. You can basically start that any way you like. But I want to make sure, and just to make sure are great ways to state your purpose, okay? Now, if you want to simplify that and make it even more conversational, you could say, okay, so what you're saying is. Now, you want to be careful with this. This could be sometimes seen as too casual, but if you want to just quickly check your understanding, this is a good way to do it. Now, if you need more information or further explanation, you might say, could you elaborate a bit more so that I can assist you better? Now, elaborate is a slightly more formal sounding word, but it can be a good way to ask for more detail. So I think I understand, but I need more explanation or further information, right? So elaborate. You could instead, if you want, say add. Could you add a bit more so that I can assist you better? Now that so that I can assist you or so I can assist you better part, I would say is optional, right? That one makes it even more formal. You can use that or leave it off. That is up to you. Now notice this could you. This is a very polite way, a very gentle way to ask for things. If you just say add more, elaborate, it could be seen as a little direct and almost like a command. But could you? Oh, it's very indirect and gentle sounding and sounds very polite. Could you give me a bit more detail? That is the same thing, but in a slightly more conversational sort of tone. It feels a little bit more familiar. I personally like that one better. Could you give me a bit more detail? Could you please repeat that? Is similar, except now I'm not asking for more detail, more information. I maybe didn't hear you, or I missed one part of what you said, or I just want to hear it again. Could you please repeat that? Is a great way to basically say, once again, please, say it again, but could you please repeat it is, of course, much more polite, right? Could you please clarify what you mean by that? Again, this sounds similar, but it's a little different. Could you please clarify? Clarify means make it more clear, but I'm asking about something specific. Clarify what you mean by that. By what? Well, what you just said. Maybe you said 10 different things and I want to understand the last thing. If I want to say which thing, I'll say, could you please clarify what you meant by B. So you said A, B, C, and D, and I want you to clarify what you meant by B. And then they'll hopefully say it again, or even better, say it in a different way so that you can really understand. Okay, so now we have some language for trying to resolve a misunderstanding, to get clarification before you then go on to resolve an issue. Now, this is similar but slightly different. What if we just want to restate in order to confirm? So here I'm pretty sure I understand. I don't think we have a misunderstanding, but I want to just say it and then have you say, yes, that's right. So this is where I want to restate and confirm so that we can move on to solving the issue. So if I understand correctly, you're hoping to, right? You're struggling with, so if I understand correctly. And a similar phrase to what we've already looked at, just to confirm. You're asking for, right? Before we talked about just to make sure I understand. So there we're dealing with understanding, perhaps a misunderstanding. Here I'm not dealing with that. I want to confirm. I think I understand, but I just want you to say, yes, that's right. Just to confirm. Very useful. Just to confirm, you're asking for, you need, right? And then just say what it is. Restate it. Say what the problem is. Say what you understand. Now, you could cut off the just part. You can use to by itself or just to, and either is okay. So you could say, for example, to clarify, you're interested in, you're looking for, you're trying to, right? You can say just to clarify, you're interested in, you're looking for. Also okay, right? You could say to recap, you're looking for, you're interested in, you need to. Now, this is different. When I say to confirm, all I'm saying is, this is what I understand the issue is, and you say, yes, that's right. To clarify, I want to say, this is what I'm pretty sure you said, and you say, yes, that's right. So that's very similar. If I say to recap, that's a little different. Now I'm going to go back and go over everything. So you said A, B, C, and D. To recap, you're looking for A, B, C, and D. Is that everything? Yes. Okay, now let's move on. Okay, so very similar in a lot of ways, but with a slightly different goal. So now you know how to restate and confirm. What about acknowledging and showing empathy? How can we do that? So let's say we've had a misunderstanding and now we're working to move on to the next step because we've solved it, right? We've resolved the misunderstanding. Here you might still apologize. Oh, I apologize for the misunderstanding. I apologize. Basically saying, listen, I'm sorry that happened. Maybe that's right when it happened, or maybe after you've actually figured out where the misunderstanding was. Then you can move on, just to sort of say, hey, I'm acknowledging that it happened. I'm sorry. Now you might state what it is. Oh, I see where the confusion came from. You were looking at an old version of something. I see where the confusion came from. I apologize for the misunderstanding. Then again, we move on to the solution. So these are just ways to acknowledge. Now, if there is this issue and you want to just quickly show empathy and acknowledge that the issue is there, you might say something like, thank you for bringing this to my attention. Or, I appreciate your patience as we sort this out. Thank you for bringing this to my attention is essentially saying, well, it's good that you said something. Now we can fix it for you. Now we can resolve it. This is a way to make sure they don't feel that you're annoyed by them having a problem. I appreciate your patience is slightly different. I appreciate that you're willing to work with me on this, to maybe wait on hold if we need to do that, right? I appreciate your patience as we sort this out. So this is something we're doing together, right? And if you want to basically say when someone is a little angry or frustrated, I understand this has been frustrating. There you're just, again, empathizing by acknowledging that they don't feel very happy. Okay, so now we have some ways to acknowledge things and empathize when the customer is waiting or when they feel frustrated or when they simply bring an issue up. Now, finally, We need to resolve the issue. So how can we do that? One very useful little phrase that we can use is now that. Think of this as a transition phrase. Now that this has happened, the next thing can happen. Extremely useful. Now that I think I understand the issue, let's see what we can do to resolve it. Now that's a little formal sounding, just a little bit formal, but it helps to say, well, this has been fixed. What? The misunderstanding. We can now go on to the solution, right? It's a great way to basically state we're moving on from step 1 to step 2. We're moving on from one thing to another, right? Now this is a little formal. So if you wanted to, let's say, make it more conversational, you could say, now that we're on the same page, let's move on. On the same page means we have a shared understanding. We seemed to have a misunderstanding before. It was due to this reason. But now that we're on the same page, let's move on. Let's do this. Let's solve this. Let's figure this out. I think I can help you, right? So again, we're using now that as a little transition phrase. Okay, what if we want to just thank them for, we've asked for clarification, we've asked for more details, we want to thank them for that before moving on. Simply say thank you. Thank you for clarifying. Thank you for clarifying. Let me put you on a brief hold while I check that for you. Okay, so we had a misunderstanding, a slight one. I wasn't sure. I asked for more details. I asked for clarification. You provided that as the customer. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. Now let's do this. It's very simple, right? Okay, now, what if I want to say that I understand the issue? I want to say kind of what the issue was or where it came from, and then I want to move on, right? This is a little bit more involved than saying now that. I understand the issue better now. Or if you want to make it less confident, I think I understand the issue better now. Okay, then I think we were just looking at different pages. Maybe you were looking at one page and I was looking at another, and it caused a misunderstanding. So now I've said basically the cause. You want to be careful here not to blame. You're doing the wrong thing. I think we were just looking at different pages. Okay, we've resolved that. Let's move on to the next step, or let's move to the next step. Now, if we want to say something very quick and simple, maybe we're in a long process and there are many, many, many little steps and pieces in that process, and we want to just say, I understand, instead of saying, I understand the issue better now, which is a little formal, we might simply say, got it. Got it. Let me correct that for you. Right? We're going through a form together. I wrote something down incorrectly. You noticed it. You said, no, it's actually this. I say, okay, got it. Let me correct that for you. This could be seen as very conversational, but again, probably more natural when we're really working together for a long period of time or on something complex. If you every time say, I understand, thank you very much for explaining that, that could make the customer feel a little uncomfortable. All right, so we have covered the language that you need to clear up misunderstandings, to restate and confirm, to acknowledge and empathize, and to finally actually resolve the issue once we have cleared up the misunderstanding. That is it for this video. If you have any questions about any of the language that we've covered, or if you want to try your own examples, put those in the comments. If you haven't already done so and you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to see future videos. And of course, check out my full English courses, including customer service English, in the links in the description. I will see you in the next one.